The demo today will be the installation process of OpenSlice and some post-installation steps. For this demo, we are here at a new clean VM. Okay, so now how we find the installation instructions. We go to the OpenSlice page, and from here we go to Community, Docs. Here, the documentation of OSL has versions according to the release. We will follow release 0, which is the stable version of OpenSlice, which you can find in the GitLab of the project. We will go to Getting Started, Deployment and Installation. Here you can see some generic information as what are the requirements for OpenSlice, how you can prepare the environment. OpenSlice uses MySQL in containers. So if you already run MySQL, you should back up your previous database. Install Docker if you don't already have done that. Now let's configure the Docker. So we add this DNS entry. And we restart our Docker in order to take the entry. Now let's create a root directory for OpenSlice. Inside the directory that we just created, we will download a script. Okay, this script basically clones into all the OpenSlice projects, downloads them, builds them, and that's all. So first of all, we have to make the script executable. And after that, we run the script. After the script, you can choose what branch of OpenSlice you want to download and build with it. And we strongly recommend to do it with sudo. Otherwise, some problems might occur during the building process mainly. This will take 1 or 2 minutes.
Or more, as it seems. So then this,
Yes.
it seems
In
like,
the meantime,
is there a internet connectivity on this VM? I mean, maybe.
yes, it just takes some time after refactoring the deploy.sh script. But in the meantime, we can show the deploy.sh script and describe it. So this is the script that we are running. As I said, here it chooses the branch that you want to download. By default, it has the main branch. After that, it goes to clone into the projects. And if you have already cloned the project locally, it updates the repo. It's after it updates the repo or clones them, it runs the building process by using Maven into a container, a Docker container. After building all the Java projects, it's time to build the UI for the portals. So that's what the script does. Any questions up until now? I think it's clear, but
so maybe to leverage this time here. So this is, let's say, a local building process. So all the project is being downloaded and built locally to someone's system. This actually means that there is space needed in the machine and also some resources. And the foreseeable future deployment will actually leverage specific pre-built images of the project that will be hosted under the Etsy portal, the respective repository. So someone would not need to download and build the whole project, but can also run the Docker Compose or the Helm installation respectively and avoid all these steps. But currently, as it is today, the release 0 installation needs to undergo this process with the local building of images and the respective Maven artifacts.
here are all the OpenSlice projects that it downloads and builds. Let's go, for example, that main project. Here are the different branches. Here is the one that we are using right now. And here is done the development that will be proposed for the next release of the project.
So this is taking some time because actually this is the last step, this building and generating the the dist files for the web application. But actually we wanted to go through the actual process of a clean slate VM so as you to be aware of the time needed in a fresh installation to install OpenSlice. So we will be all in the same page after this installation is finished without actually skipping any steps. I think we are ready, George.
Yes, now we're ready. As you can see, it has created the directories for its repo. And the first step we need to do before running any of the built images is to go at the main project. And go at Compose and edit some of the things in the... Sorry, first of all, we have to create the Docker Compose file. In order not to disturb any changes that you make locally to your Docker Compose, we have created a template as a placeholder. And we start from that. So first of all, we have to duplicate the template and rename it. After we create the Docker Compose, we need to do some changes on it. So here is the services and the according containers and their configurations. It has two profiles, the dev and prod profile. For our demo today, we will use the prod profile. So first of all, we have to configure the MySQL container. This is an optional step, and you do that in case you changed anything in the folder MySQL init. There is a file that is databases.sql. If you make any changes here, you come to MySQL portal and you pass these changes accordingly. Okay, let's go to the next step. Next is that we configure the keycloak container. Same thing, if you want to change your default user of keycloak, you make the changes here and here. I'm sorry, someone has their microphone. Oh, thank you. After that, we go to the Bugzilla container to do any changes that might be needed. For this deployment, this is a Bugzilla client and not a Bugzilla service on its own. So as long as we don't have a Bugzilla, we will do no changes at that either. The first important changes that we meet here are the changes at the OS portal API for the RFV services. So here we have assumed that we don't know the domain that anyone will run their OSL deployment. So first of all, we have to change the keycloak 8080 to our DNS name, domain name, whatever it is. In our case, it is a VM with an IP of 10.1.6.16. We do that and we replace every keycloak 8080 with that IP in order to make no mistakes. I will do that using Nano. Okay. And we do the same exactly change at the OSS C API for the TMF API service. So we'll keep changing. And for the OAS API too. Okay. Now we have to do
George,
one more
sorry
change.
to interrupt. Yeah, at the TMF API, because it's not only the keycloak that you need to change.
I just wanted to save the changes so that no mistake will affect the next step. Moreover, another another service that we have a placeholder is the Crocky service. It's a more recent service and it's not added to this documentation, but this will be added to the template of the TMF API service here. We also have to change the Crocky server URL from localhost. It will also be on the IP where our VM runs. Okay, and now, as you see, all the changes in our compose file are done. And then we move on to configuring our Nginx service. The Nginx service is also, the configuration of the Nginx service is also in the compose folder. There is a subfolder called Nginx. For the same reason that we have no docker compose.yaml, we have no nginx.conf. So we have to rename it and duplicate it. There are no changes that need to be done for our deployment, but there is a standard Nginx configuration that you might want to tinker with if you want something else. After that, we need to go and configure our frontend, the web and TMF web UI. So in order to do that, we go to the root folder, the OpenSlice folder. And from there, for the web UI, we go to org etc OSL portal web. And after that, we go to the subfolder source.js. Here, we have to create the config.js, and then we go and edit it. The API URL, for the same reason as before, is at localhost 13,000 port, and we change it at 10.1.6.16. I repeat, that's the IP of the VM that we are using right now. Back to the root folder, and we go to configure the TMF web UI. So one important thing about the TMF web UI, if you want your changes to be persistent, you go to TMF web /source/assets/config. However, if these changes might be persistent, but they're not immediately deployed, and you have to rebuild the project. But you can have them immediately deployed in order to do some tests and see what changes need to be done. Under the dist subfolder, give me 1 second, I will find the exact location. Here. So important note, for the changes to be applied immediately, you have to go to dist IO OpenSlice portal web assets config. It's a different directory from the one that we're going to use now. Here is the config prod JSON. This is our configuration. Here we have used the base URL in order to dynamically take the IP of the deployment, so no changes will need to be done. Moving on forward, this is an optional step. You can also go and do changes at the config theming in order to use your icons and personalize your OSL deployment. Okay, actually now we have done all the mandatory installation steps. And we should be ready to go and run the Docker Compose and see what we have. Of course, for the first time, you have no need to run the Compose down, so we will run the Compose up. Will take some time to build the images. It doesn't take as long as the deploy took. And actually now we should have an OSL running at port 9000. We should have a portainer. Portainer is a tool, an external tool that helps us monitor our Docker. It's somewhat like Docker desktop. We have our local environment of Docker, and it shows that we have locally 24 images, 5 networks, and 14 containers. These 14 containers are all OpenSlice related. It's the ones run from the Docker Compose, of course. And if you go, for example, inside one container, you can see from the logs that the service started and what it returns to us. This is a very helpful tool for debugging in the future. So now let's go and try to sign in. As you can see, we are not able to do that. Here. Give me 1 second. In order to be able to sign in, we have to run our post-installation steps. As we say here, this section is mandatory. Without it, you cannot log into OpenSlice. First of all, we have to go to Keycloak. Many of you might know that Keycloak is an authorization service. Okay, now what are Keycloak credentials? As we said before, we set our own Keycloak credentials at the Docker Compose. This is our Keycloak user, and this is our Keycloak password. Now we signed in. Okay. So for Keycloak, the first thing we want to do is go to Realm OpenSlice. Now we are already at OpenSlice, but we might have ended in master. We go to OpenSlice. And we go to clients. After we go to clients, we go to OS API web client. And we have to do some changes for the root URL, valid redirect URLs, admin URL, and web origins. For the same reason as before, these are all the default localhost values. And we change them. Now from invalid parameter redirect URI, you see that we are able to sign in. But how do we make a new user? In order to make a new user, we go to Realm settings, login, and we enable user registration. We enable for them to find if they have forgotten their password, and whichever custom setting we want to add, we can add it. Here you can see forgot password, register. One more thing we need to do is go to tokens and max out our sessions because 30 minutes is too low. Okay, now we go and save the changes we did. The last step about the tokens is not described here. This will be added also to the documentation. Now, okay, of course we can create a user from here, but what we propose is that for the first user, the admin user, obviously there are no users right now, the admin user of OpenSlice should be created through the keycloak itself. Okay, now we have a user. What are the credentials of the user? We set a temporary password for him to create his own password. And now we have to do some role mapping. By default, every user has the default roles for OpenSlice. But now, as we saw, we created an admin user. How we create an admin user? We add the available roles of admin and mentor. You can see here. These two roles guarantee full access through the OpenSlice UI. So we add the selected roles. And now we should be able to log in. As we said, this was a temporary password. We need to change it. And voila, this is an OpenSlice deployment. Right now we are at the services UI, services marketplace. The services marketplace has service catalog, etc. These will be shown afterwards. And as you can see, we can also log into the NFV portal. Admin, name, email, everything is here. So thank you everyone. This was the installation demo of OpenSlice.